Hello, and this is the beginning of Module 2, Scientific and Theoretical Foundation for Therapeutic Horticulture. In this module, we will explore some of the scientific theories and the research behind them that explain and support this profession. The underlying premise is that our human connection to nature is important and even essential to our well-being, and this is validated through this research. In this module, we will be doing the following. We will be reviewing various fields of psychology that have contributed to this body of knowledge, as well as some of the key people conducting the research. We will summarize some of the significant findings of research studies. And lastly, we will ask students to review a research study of their own choosing from a list provided for class discussion. These are the objectives of this module. Lecture 2.1. In the first lecture, we will introduce 3 interrelated fields of psychology and the different approaches they use to understand that essential connection between humans and nature, and why this connection is so important to our health and wellness. While the 3 fields listed here can generally be classified as environmentally focused psychologies, they approach the study of the human-nature connection from different angles. They are environmental psychology, evolutionary psychology, and eco-psychology. Environmental psychology explores the relationship between humans and their external world. The findings of this research are relevant to diverse professions, as large as city planning and planet sustainability, and also as localized as the design of healthcare facilities. The overall purpose of the field is to help design professionals improve human environments. One example of the effective environment is demonstrated in this picture of a smiling woman surrounded by flowers. Common sense tells us that flowers make us happy, but research has also shown that beyond the happiness felt when receiving a gift of flowers, they can have strong positive effects on our emotions and our well-being for a lasting period of time after the flowers are given. How both natural and man-made environments influence the way people think, feel, and act is a major focus of this research. Not surprisingly, there are many psychological links people have to physical spaces around them. Space makes a difference. A simple walk in the park can mitigate cognitive fatigue and elevate mood. We will be discussing more of these findings from environmental psychologists in the next lessons. Evolutionary psychology is a theoretical approach in social and natural sciences that studies psychology from a modern evolutionary perspective. It seeks to identify which human psychological traits are evolved adaptations, that is, the functional products of natural selection and sexual selection in human evolution. According to evolutionary psychologists, the mind is shaped by the pressures to survive and reproduce as it was on the African savanna where our ancestors lived and died. Our emotions, too, are linked to survival skills. The flight response is one such tendency that arises quickly when seeing danger. And this is graphically displayed in this photograph. Balancing our ancestral tendencies with modern-day living can be a struggle. This phenomenon is called evolutionary mismatch, when we find ourselves in an environment inconsistent with our ancestral conditioning. Instincts may be triggered when they are not helpful, such as fleeing a perceived danger when escape is really not warranted. Or another example is our emotional needs stemming from our ancestral minds may be unmet in our current living environments, such as our ancestral connection to plants for survival. Ancestral survival needs included food, water, and shelter, and plants fulfilled these needs in various ways. This view of an acacia tree on the African savanna marked where water was likely to be found. People knew that when trees had a broad canopy like this, that signaled the presence of water nearby. One theory in evolutionary psychology is that a universal human attraction to a tree within a field which forms a broad canopy derives from this connection. Eco-psychology is a relatively new field, sometimes considered outside conventional psychology, but it has a growing following. It uses ecological and psychological principles to validate that an emotional connection to nature is normal and even necessary to health. It draws on findings in environmental psychology and the premise of evolutionary psychology to do this. Eco-psychology uses therapeutic techniques to expand the emotional connection between individuals and the natural world. And by so doing, it seeks to help people develop sustainable lifestyles and to strengthen connection to nature that has eroded over the past century and particularly over the last decades. This picture was taken from a website called the International Eco-Psychology Society. Closeness to nature is the key to health in this worldview. This ends Lecture 2.1. Go to assigned reading 2.1.1 and exercise 2.1.1. Then go to assigned reading 2.1.2 and exercise 2.1.2. After completing these assigned readings and exercises, you can begin Lecture 2.2.